Okay, let's unpack this. I want you to picture two very different worlds in your head right now. In the first frame, you have the high-octane world of Hollywood. We're talking explosions, red carpets, millions of dollars, and specifically, the guy who seems to survive it all, Keanu Reeves.
Right. The John Wick universe. High
Yeah.
stakes, tailored suits, and, a lot of tactical training.
Exactly. Now, swipe left in your brain. In the second frame, I want you to picture a student living in a boarding house. Maybe they're 14, maybe 15. They're dealing with shared showers, the terrifying hierarchy of the dining hall, prep time, just trying to figure out who they are.
Which, if we're being honest, is a totally different kind of high stakes. I mean, the social stakes in a boarding house can feel just as life or death as a John Wick movie when you're a teenager.
Precisely. But here's where it gets really interesting. We have a guide in front of us today for our deep dive titled What a Boarder Can Learn from Keanu Reeves. And before you ask, no, this isn't a tutorial on how to dodge bullets in slow motion or how to handle a motorcycle at high speeds.
Which is a shame, because that would be a fantastic extracurricular. But I see where this is going. It's not about the stunts, it's about the man behind them.
It is. This guide is surprisingly profound. It's basically a manual on character, community, and social dynamics, disguised as a celebrity case study. It argues that the specific traits that make Keanu Reeves the internet's favorite human kindness, humility, perspective are actually the foundational code for a healthy living community.
It's a fascinating juxtaposition. Usually when we look at celebrities, we're looking at their output.
Their movies, their albums.
Right, their awards. But with Reeves, the cultural obsession is almost entirely about his input, how he treats people, how he moves through the world. And the mission of this deep dive is to see if we can take that Keanu code and apply it to the messy, noisy, sometimes smelly reality of living with 100 other teenagers.
I was looking through the source material, and I just love how granular it gets. It doesn't just say, be a good person. It talks about small actions. It breaks it down into things like a smile at breakfast or saving someone a seat. It feels very doable, but also maybe a little soft. I mean, is this just about being nice?
See, that's the trap. We often dismiss nice as weak, but this text frames it differently. It talks about creating an emotional atmosphere. Think about it. A boarding house isn't just a building. It's a pressure cooker.
Oh, absolutely.
And the atmosphere inside that cooker is built brick by those small interactions you mentioned. It's a study in how individuals, regardless of whether they have a badge that says head of house, shape the feeling of a home.
So let's dive right into that first big theme. The guide calls it the paradox of kindness. Or, more specifically, the idea that kindness is a strength. And I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
In a high school environment or a boarding house, isn't there a risk that kindness looks like weakness? The nice guy finishes last trope. There's this idea that to be cool or respected, you need a bit of an edge. You need to be detached, maybe a little cynical.
That is the common misconception.
Yeah.
And frankly, it's a survival mechanism. We armor up because we don't want to get hurt. But the source makes a really compelling point here by using the Keanu archetype. Think about his life. The text explicitly mentions that he has experienced massive success, fame, and money. But it also notes he's experienced deep, profound personal loss.
Yeah, his life story is actually quite tragic in parts. He's lost people very close to him.
Exactly. He has every reason to be cynical. He has every reason to be a diva. He has the power to treat people like dirt and still get paid $20 million a movie. But the stories people tell about him aren't about his power. They're about his kindness.
The text lists some of these legendary internet stories, right? Like the video of him on the New York subway. He's just sitting there reading the paper and he sees a woman with a heavy bag and he just stands up. He gives her a seat, no cameras, no PR team, just a guy doing a decent thing.
And that's where the guide pivots to the boarding world. It asks, what is the boarding equivalent of giving up your seat on the subway? Because a boarder isn't riding the subway to math class.
The list in the text is so relatable it actually gave me flashbacks. It says, kindness in boarding looks like a smile at breakfast, asking if a person is okay, saying thank you to the cleaning staff. And this one really stuck out to me, saving someone a seat.
Let's pause on saving someone a seat for a second. Because to an adult listening, that sounds trivial. Oh, big deal, save a seat. But you have to contextualize this. In the ecosystem of a boarding school dining hall, entering that room alone is terrifying.
Oh, totally. Walking into a cafeteria, holding a tray, looking at a sea of backs turned to you. That's primal fear. That's, am I going to survive this lunch period?
Exactly. So in that context, the act of waving someone over, saving them a seat, isn't just being nice. It's a lifeline. It is a massive signal of inclusion. It says, you belong here. And that's where you get to the so what of this section. The text asserts that kindness is not weakness. It calls kindness one of the strongest forces in a community.
I see what you mean. It takes confidence to be the one who waves the person over. It takes confidence to be kind when you're tired or stressed about exams.
Or, perhaps most importantly, when everyone else is being unkind. The text specifically mentions choosing not to join in with unkind behavior as a specific form of kindness.
That's the passive resistance piece.
It's active, really. Think about the social courage that takes. If your group of friends is mocking someone or freezing someone out, the path of least resistance is to laugh along, to join the mob. It takes significant strength to be the one who doesn't laugh, to be the one who changes the subject, to be the one who walks away.
That's a really good point. It links back to the Keanu action hero thing.
Yeah.
He's tough, he can handle himself, but he chooses gentleness. It implies that true strength allows you to be gentle. You don't need to bark to prove you're a big dog.
Precisely. It's emotional leadership.
Yeah.
You are setting the tone rather than just matching the tone of the room.
Which leads us perfectly into the second section, which I think is going to resonate with a lot of people who maybe feel a bit drowned out sometimes. This is about quiet confidence versus the big personality.
This is such a crucial distinction, especially in communal living.
The source notes that boarding houses, and let's be honest, society in general, tend to celebrate big personalities. You know the type, the loudest guy in the common room, the funniest girl at the party.
The one who sucks all the oxygen out of the room, but in a fun, entertaining way.
Right. And the text acknowledges that's fine. It says, and that's good. We need energy. We need the class clowns. But the problem arises when we think that's the only way to matter. The text pivots to the Keanu style of confidence.
Which is described as quiet, calm, respectful, and grounded.
Grounded is the word that sticks out to me there.
Why is that?
Well, a big personality is often about projection. It's outward. Look at me, listen to me. Being grounded is internal. It suggests stability.
Yes. In a boarding house, which can be chaotic, noisy, and full of drama, having someone who is simply calm and consistent is incredibly valuable. They become a sort of anchor for the house.
The text has this really reassuring message for you, the listener, especially for the introverts out there. It says, you don't have to be the funniest, the most popular, or the most talented to be someone who matters.
That's a heavy statement in a competitive environment like a school.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything in school is measured, right? You're ranked in sports, you're ranked in academics, you're ranked in likes on social media. It's easy to feel like your worth is just the sum of your stats.
But the text flips that. It says, you matter because of how you treat people.
It decouples your worth from your output. It's saying your contribution to the community isn't your GPA or your goal scoring record. Your contribution is the quality of your interactions. Are you safe to be around? Are you respectful? That's the Keanu model.
Yeah.
You don't see him trying to be the center of attention in interviews. He's often deflecting praise, pointing to the crew, pointing to the stunt team.
That actually leads us right into the next pillar, humility. But the source text defines this in a way that I found really interesting. It says humility isn't just about being shy or self-deprecating. It defines it as not showing off, celebrating others' success, and being grateful.
That second one, celebrating others' success, is the hardest test of character, I think.
Oh, 100%. It's easy to be humble when you're failing. Oh, I'm not that great. Yeah, we know. You just failed the test. But to be gracious when you're struggling and your roommate just aced it.
Exactly. Imagine you've been training all season for the soccer team, and you get cut. Your best friend makes the varsity squad. To be able to look them in the eye and honestly say, I am so happy for you, that is the Keanu level the text is pointing toward. That is elite character.
The text also brings up accepting feedback without defensiveness. That's a tough one for teenagers. Well, for adults too, let's be honest. Nobody likes being told they're wrong.
It is hard.
Yeah.
But think about the professional context of an actor like Reeves. He's known for being incredibly coachable. If a director gives a note, he takes it. He doesn't throw a tantrum. He doesn't say, do you know who I am? The text suggests that in boarding, this humility builds real respect. Not the fake respect people give you because they're afraid of you or because you're the top dog, but respect for who you are as a human.
Now, here is where it gets really interesting for me. This is my favorite part of the guide. It introduces a specific psychological tool regarding perspective. It calls it one of the most powerful lessons we can take from Keanu Reeves.
Yes, the I get to shift. This is powerful stuff.
Before we get to the mantra itself, let's look at the setup. The source says we need to understand that everyone is dealing with something and everyone has challenges you cannot see.
This is basic empathy. But in a boarding context, it's vital. You live on top of each other. You see your housemates in their pajamas. You see them brushing their teeth. You think you know them, but you don't know the phone call they just got from home. You don't know the insecurity they're hiding. The text argues that recognizing this invisible burden makes you more patient.
It stops you from snapping at them when they leave a wet towel on the floor? Maybe.
Maybe? Or at least it helps you forgive them faster.
But let's talk about this mantra. The text says, perspective turns I have to into I get to. It's a gratitude reframe.
Right. And this isn't just toxic positivity. It's about rewiring how you perceive your reality.
So let's roleplay this a bit. The typical boarding complaint, I have to go to prep tonight.
The shift is, I get to go to school. I have the opportunity to learn things that millions of kids around the world don't.
Okay, here's a harder one. I have to share a room with this messy person who snores.
I get to live with friends. I get to be part of a community. I'm not isolated.
Okay, that one is a stretch on a Tuesday morning when you haven't slept.
It is a stretch. It's mental gymnastics. But that's the discipline of it. The text acknowledges the frustrations, hating routines, comparing yourself to others, having a difficult day. These are real emotions. The I get to shift doesn't deny the frustration. It contextualizes it. It reminds the boarder that the position they are in, receiving an education, having a roof over their head, having kids, is a privilege.
It's mental ninja stuff. It's very Matrix. It's realizing that your reality is shaped by your focus.
And if you look at Keanu's life again, he's known for this. He gave away a huge chunk of his earnings from the Matrix to the special effects team. Why? Because he didn't feel he had to keep it. He felt he got to share it. He operates from a place of abundance, not scarcity.
So we've got kindness, we've got humility, we've got perspective. All of this leads to the fourth section of the source material, which is about the environment itself. Belonging is built, not enforced.
This is the sociological part of the deep dive. This is where we zoom out from the individual to the group.
The text makes a bold claim here. A strong boarding culture is not created by rules.
Which every teacher might dispute on paper, but every sociologist would agree with in practice. Rules prevent chaos. They don't create culture. Culture is what happens when the teacher leaves the room. Culture is how you treat each other in the common room at 9 p.m. on a Saturday.
The source says culture is created by people who look out for each other, speak with respect, and make others feel safe. It uses this phrase, emotional atmosphere.
I love that phrase, emotional atmosphere.
It sounds like weather, doesn't it?
It does. And just like weather, it affects everyone's performance. If the atmosphere is cold or divided, words used in the text, everyone shivers. You keep your head down. You survive, but you don't thrive. If it's welcoming and supportive, everyone relaxes. The crucial point the text makes is that every boarder contributes to this. You're not just a passenger in the house, you are part of the climate control system.
That's a great analogy. So if you walk in and slam a door, you just drop the temperature.
Exactly. If you ignore the new kid, you've created a cold front. If you ask someone how their day was and actually listen to the answer, you're bringing the sunshine.
And the source emphasizes that boarding isn't just where you sleep, it is your home.
And that raises the bar significantly. You can tolerate a cold atmosphere in a hotel or a train station. You shouldn't have to tolerate it in your home. The text lists the markers of a good home: safe, valued, accepted, understood.
And it explicitly says that culture is built by students, not just staff. I feel like that's empowering, but also a lot of responsibility. It's saying, hey, if this place sucks, that's partly on you.
It is agency. It's telling the listener, you aren't just a victim of the mood of the house, you are a creator of it. If you want a warmer house, you have to bring the warmth. It stops you from complaining about the vibe and challenges you to improve it.
So we're coming to the end of the source material, and it wraps up with what it calls a final thought for boarders. And honestly, this part hit me a little bit. It's the legacy check.
This is the part that tries to fast forward the listener's life.
Yeah, it lists the things you won't be remembered for most. Your grades, your exam results, your achievements.
Which is incredibly counterintuitive, because those are the things you spend 90% of your time worrying about. You lose sleep over the grades, you cry over the exam result.
Exactly. I'm stressing about the math test, thinking my entire future depends on it. But the text says, 10 years from now, nobody's going to remember what I got on it. Nobody cares about your algebra score at your 10-year reunion.
What they will remember, according to the source, is how you made people feel, who you included. And this is the kicker, how you behaved when you didn't have to be kind, but chose to be anyway.
When you didn't have to be kind, that's the integrity piece.
It is. It's the definition of character. Doing the right thing when no one is forcing you to,
Yeah.
and when you gain nothing from it other than the knowledge that you helped someone, it's giving up the subway seat when you're tired and nobody is filming.
The text brings it back to Keanu one last time. It says, Keanu Reeves reminds us that success is important, but kindness is what makes a community feel like home.
And that's the synthesis. It's not saying drop out of school, stop studying, and just be nice. It says success matters. Keanu is successful, but kindness is the connective tissue. Without it, you just have a building full of successful, lonely people.
And nobody wants to live in a building full of successful, lonely people.
That's a sad movie. That's Citizen Kane, not Bill and Ted.
The final line of the text is, boarding life gives you the chance to practice that every single day.
It frames the boarding environment not as a burden, but as a training ground. A dojo for character, if you want to stick with the Keanu martial arts theme.
I like that. A dojo for kindness.
Every breakfast is a rep. Every interaction in the hallway is a sparring match against your own selfishness. You get to practice being the person you want to become. And the stakes are low enough that if you mess up today, if you're grumpy, if you're selfish, you can try again tomorrow.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Maybe you're in a boarding house, maybe you're in a college dorm, or maybe you just share an apartment or an office.
The principles are universal. It works in a corporate office just as well as a dorm.
The source material challenges us to look at our daily small actions. It asks us to stop waiting for the big hero moment. You don't need to save the world from machines. You don't need to stop a bus from blowing up. You just need to save someone a seat.
And in doing so, you might just save the day for that one person. And that matters.
It really does. So here is a final provocative thought to leave you with, something that's been bouncing around in my head since we started reading this. We've talked about how kindness shapes the house or the community. But I want you to think about what it does to you.
Go on.
If you spend 5 years in a boarding house practicing this Keanu code, practicing the smile, the gratitude, the perspective shift, who do you become by the time you leave?
You become someone who is unshakable. You become someone who can walk into any room, any boardroom, any crisis, and be the grounding force. You don't just learn to be a good roommate. You learn to be a good human. You become the kind of person people want to work with, live with, and be around. And that is the ultimate definition of success.
And I think that is a lesson worth learning, whether you're dodging bullets or just dodging homework. Thanks for diving in with us.
The pleasure.
Be kind to each other. We'll see you next time.